Today on our Industry Insiders podcast, we have Ryan Middleton, owner of 247 Fighting Championships. Ryan has two cards coming up, Brawl in the Berg 4 and 5. They're going to be on November 25th and 28th out in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Ryan, thank you for joining us today. How's it going?
Very good. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for joining us. I'm excited to, talk about these two cards that you have coming up. We have a decent amount of sponsored athletes who are fighting for you. But first of all, we just wanted to, ask you the question I like to ask all promoters, which is, why fight promotion? Why'd you get into the game? What kind of, inspired you to get involved with this crazy sport?
Well, that's a good question. I'm a fan first. Like, ultimately, I'm a fan of the sport. I've been since UFC 1. Loved MMA from, it's UFC kind of started when I was in high school, and just loved watching it, was a huge fan. And over the course of time, it just never faded. It always was such a strong passion for me. The story goes, I'd been to UFC events throughout the country. I'd gone to like Seattle UFC versus 4, which was Nate Diaz's title shot against Benson Henderson, and like flew out to Seattle to see that. Like, I'm a pretty big fan. But a couple buddies and I went to UFC 203 in Cleveland, and we went up for like, the press conference and weigh-ins. So we went up on like Thursday and checked into the hotel, and we happened to be staying at the same hotel as all the fighters. And so we just like were hanging out with the fighters all weekend. It was really cool. And that was I was driving home from that Sunday morning, and I said, I have to do something productive with my passion for the sport. This is what I need to be doing. And so the process started there. Me and Jim Mooney, who was the matchmaker here at 247, started a podcast, and we started a website. It was called Octagon 24/7, and the podcast was called MMA Fancast. And we just started like having fun with it, and we started, covering local events, and then we got invited to cover Bellator and started like getting some traction. But noticed the scene in Pittsburgh wasn't really, not a lot was happening. So I reached out to a promoter here and helped promote a show with that promotion, and then ended up starting my own.
And I think for a lot of promoters, they kind of have, a true passion for MMA, and then they all see the way that shows are run, right? You saw how from the UFC down to a local show, they're all run, kind of the same but different in a way. So what did you see in the way that shows were promoted that made you, get into the promotion side of things and say, I know I can do this well, I can do this efficiently, I can do something that fighters want to fight for me for?
Yeah, I think, I think the biggest thing for me is having the true passion for it and the drive to like do something very well. Anyone can put together a fight card and throw a cage up and have a show, but are you willing to put the time, energy, and effort into making it an event? And I think that's the difference between, I'm not knocking anyone, the more promotions that are out there, the better it is for the fighters. The more choices they have, and that's ultimately, a good thing. But I don't want to be just a, small town little promotion. I want to build this thing. I want to grow this thing and take it very seriously. And I just have such a passion for it. We put so much time, energy, and effort into it. My wife is really the only one that knows how much time I put into it. It probably borders on unhealthy, but I'm very passionate about it, and I want this to become something great.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that about your wife and that kind of that unhealthy relationship, because I think most partners of also fighters understand that it's not just the physical effort that goes into it, right? It's on their mind 24/7, 247, pretty much from the time they sign to fight or that they accept a fight as an amateur. And it seems to be for the successful promotions, it seems to be the same way for those promoters, where they're constantly on the horn with fighters. They're constantly making sure matchups are good, and this hotel's booked and that thing is done. So what kind of things are you doing for your fighters that keeps them coming back and fighting for you?
Yeah, I mean, we truly want to have a long-term relationship with our fighters. You know, everyone's has goals, right? And some fighters' goals, we want to know what those goals are. For some guys, it means main eventing a regional card. For other guys, it means reaching the highest level of the UFC. So knowing what their goals are, and trying to help them have the opportunities to have those, to reach those goals. Um, you know, a lot of work goes into what we do, and I think that some some people realize that, and some people don't. And we want to help build up the guys that are looking to go to the UFC. It's a two-way partnership. So from a promoter standpoint in regional MMA, ticket sales is king. Like, that's why there was no shows going on, because that's how we are able to pay for the show, is by selling tickets. So when athletes come in and they are able to push a bunch of tickets, that's a good thing, and that helps us, and in turn we're able to help you. But I mean, there are guys also that like want to just have a bout and not sell tickets, and that's fine if we have a spot for you. But ultimately, like, it's a you scratch our back, we scratch yours kind of thing, because the two really have to go hand in hand. And that's something that I think that, like, people have to kind of understand. The guys that, I mean, Pittsburgh, MMA, it's crazy right now how much is going on at every level with UFC and Kama Worthy and Bellator. There's a bunch of guys in Bellator with John DeJesus and Cody Law and Dom Mazzata, and the list goes on. There's a bunch of really good guys that are involved, like, active right now in the middle of a pandemic, and it's awesome. And now we're putting on 2 cards. We're going to have more people, more Pittsburgh area fighters fight in this 4-day period than have ever fought in 1 week in Pittsburgh before. I mean, the fighters in this region, and I include Morgantown, I include Altoona with those guys, but we're going to have around 30 fighters from the area that fight on our cards in that week. So it's pretty exciting. But we want to have a relationship with our fighters. We want to, help the gyms out. Part of when I originally wrote the business plan for 247, part of the goal, one of the major goals, was to build up the gyms in Pittsburgh. We want kids going to our shows. We want to avoid, like, there may be a time where we do some casino shows, but we really want to avoid that, to be quite honest, because it's 18 and over. We want our shows to be filled with kids, and those kids, we want them to realize, oh, what, I can go train with that guy who's fighting in the cage right there. Like, he can be my coach. Sign me up. We want that type of atmosphere, because the wrestling base we have here in Pittsburgh, it is like no other. I mean, in Pennsylvania, we have this huge wrestling base. There's no reason in my mind why in Pittsburgh we shouldn't be one of the meccas of MMA. Like, our regional scene shouldn't be, like it is in spots in Florida and Southern California and, New Mexico. Like, there are spots that we need to be like. And I think that, we can get there, and we're on our way. So pandemic's not going to stop us. Although I did think it might.
Yeah, and I think most promotions, pretty much from the ground up, all had that same thought of, well, ticket sales are what we need, right, to put these shows on. So how are we going to do this? And the regulations have kind of been relaxed a little bit. Now there's some people that are allowed in, but you're putting on back-to-back shows, and I think that's a thing that a lot of people right now are doing, really across the country, whether it's 2 shows in one day or back-to-back weekends, or you're doing the Wednesday before Thanksgiving and then the Saturday after, and then that kind of brings me into my next question, which is, why are so many people doing those back-to-back shows right now, or those 2 shows in one weekend, or whatever that may be?
Well, I can't speak for anyone else. I can tell you why we are. A venue rental is expensive. We need to have, in order to have a show, we need a big venue. So there's a lot of negotiations that have been happening to try to make this happen. Being able to sell tickets to 2 shows as opposed to only 1 show makes that be able to make sense.
Okay.
There are promotions that have a deal, like a streaming deal with like UFC Fight Pass. They are less dependent on ticket sales than we are. They have an income to help pay for costs for shows that we don't have. As a newer promotion, like, that's a part of our goal. Like, we want to work toward that. But we're working our way to get to that. So ticket sales is king. We need those, and we tried to, when they were allowing some outdoor capacity and stuff, we were trying to figure out something to make that work. We were trying to figure out a back-to-back shows on October 3rd and 4th. When it all came down to it, we did not want to, like, we couldn't find cover for the cage, and we didn't want to risk the potential for rain and a downpour and all of that. So we didn't end up pulling the trigger on that, but we certainly have been exploring options since the moment we felt like we could have a show, and now it finally panned out.
Sure. And I can speak from experience that an outdoor show is something I'll never do again. I fought outside at a stadium here in Lancaster, and Ethan Goss, who's fighting for you this coming card, he actually fought on the same show with me. It was so hot that Greg Serb, the commissioner, reduced the time of each fight, where amateurs were only 1.5 minutes, advanced amateurs were 2, and pros were 3. And he moved the advanced amateur fights to the beginning of the card, and then the pros, and then the amateurs, because he was so concerned for people's health. So that's something that, I am never going to deal with again. If there's an outdoor show, no, thank you. And there's just too many factors.
And I agree with you, but you mentioned Greg Serb, and Greg has been the, commissioner for many years. Mm-hmm. And Greg is, he's a very stern guy, and he can be short. And I want to just say this. Through this pandemic, there is nobody in this world that I couldn't be happier that Greg Serb is our commissioner, because he has fought for MMA, he has fought for combat sports here in Pennsylvania, and the health department did not want anything to be happening right now, and he fought for it, and he was, he's the reason that we can have a card. When it all boils down to it. A lot of people need to be thankful that Pennsylvania has Greg Serb, because without him, we're not having this card.
Yeah, like you said, Greg, he's a very stern, a hard ass. I would say Greg Serb's, he's a hard ass when you're dealing with him. I was told the first time I ever fought, don't wear a hat, don't wear sunglasses, make sure you look him in the eye when you sit down across the table from him. But Greg's going to get stuff done, right? And that's what I think a lot of people who don't like Greg, right, don't understand that about him. is that he's
Mhm.
somebody he's an advocate for the sport. He wants us to be able to fight. He wants there to be safe and competitive fights at all times. So sometimes he'll throw a fight out, right? If you're trying to fight somebody who's just way above or below your skill set, he's not going to put you in there to either kill that person or have you get killed. So he reviews every fight. Like, as a promoter, you have to submit all the fights to him, and then he's going to say yes or no for every one. So he wants each fight to be competitive as well, which I think a lot of people that aren't behind the scenes and don't know that, don't understand how much work he actually does for the sport of MMA here in Pennsylvania.
No, absolutely. He has, there's people that don't like him or say things about him, but I can't say enough great things about Greg Serb. Honestly, he's just been over the top, great to work with.
Yeah, and obviously he had to, he had to approve all these fights coming up on your next two shows. I wanted to talk about those two shows: the Wednesday show, the 25th, and then the Saturday show, the 28th. You know what fights are you most excited for coming up? What kind of things can fans expect when they come to your show now that it's your first show in a pandemic? What are you looking forward to? It's an exciting time for MMA here in Pennsylvania because it's been so long since we've had fights.
Absolutely. Well, there are going to be some, social distancing. We're going to have every single seat is a table seat, which is not normal. Normally, like right around the cage are table seats, and they're more expensive. And then as you go out, everyone's in individual seats. Everything's going to be a table seat, max of 6 people at a table. And so there are some, everything, drink and food will be served from servers. Like those are some of the things they want to eliminate, like lines and crowds and all that stuff. Everyone will be wearing masks except for when they're seated, those kind of things. So that's the only thing that's really different. We're in a huge venue. We're going to be spaced out, but the venue seats like 6,100 people. So that's the reason we're only allowed to be at 15%. So yeah, that's where we're looking at being very spaced out, and all of that good stuff. As far as matchups go, I mean, these cards are awesome. I'm telling you, if you like MMA, like I know there's a bunch of people that think they like MMA, but what they really like is UFC. If you think you like MMA and you've never been to a regional show, I implore you to come to this show. And if you don't have a good time, I will be flabbergasted. We don't just throw up a cage and have a show. We do the theatrics, we do the walkouts, we do the lights. We got, it's not a dingy, dirty, dusty room, anything like that. The preconceived notions of what I had when I was a UFC fan, I thought I was an MMA fan. Come to a regional show because this is going to be awesome. We have the main event for Brawl in the Burg 4, which is on the 25th, which is the night before Thanksgiving, biggest party night of the year. We are going to have the biggest party in Pennsylvania. Timmy Tyler is coming into town from New Jersey, and he'll be facing Trenton Zadarko in the main event. That's the pro fight on that card. Normally, we have to have 2 pro fights per card, so really you have to schedule 3. Since this 15% capacity thing, we don't have to have any pro fights. We decided to put a pro fight on both cards, so keep those guys active as well. But that's a great main event. Those two, that's going to be a great battle. Our co-main event, I mean, this fight is worth the price of admission alone. Justin Patton and Cameron Allgaier, they are battling for our vacant bantamweight amateur title. Justin has been ready to go pro for quite a bit, but like certain things have happened where he's had an injury. His toe almost got ripped off. Well, did get ripped off. Like he's had like a series of things happen. He hasn't fought in like a year and a half. So it's best for him to kind of get active again, have a amateur fight to get active again, and then turn pro. He'll turn pro after this fight. And Cam Allgaier, man, he's come on the scene. Basically, he's done whatever he's wanted to his opponents. He wants to take you down, hold you down, beat you up, and that's what he does every single time. So those two will be battling for the title. We got, I mean, this card is really good. A lot of close matchups. You have Eric as one of your guys. He's facing Colin Caprini, and those two are just two super high level amateurs that are ready to go pro sometime in the next, I would say within the next 6 months to a year, a fight or two, before they go pro. This is a fight that this is a pro level fight that at the amateur level, both of those two fights are. There's a fight on this card that hasn't been announced yet that I'm super excited about. It's coming out in the next couple of days, so I'm gonna have to hold on to that one.
All right.
But we have, and we actually have 3 fights that haven't been announced on that card. But Josh Vasoki, he's fighting on the card against, Josh is now at Stout Pittsburgh. He recently moved camps, and so now he's at Stout, and he's taking on Peyton McConaughey, who is at Ground Zero Morgantown. So another fight with 2 local guys doing battle, which doesn't happen too often here in Pittsburgh. Because a lot of these guys are friends. They all train together. They all mix gyms and have open gyms and all this stuff, which from a promoter's perspective is not the best for us because we got to bring everyone in. So when we can get these matchups where you got a local guy versus a local guy, that's best case scenario for us, and it's best case scenario for the fans. You get to see guys that are from around here that you're going to see over and over again. And then there's another fight I want to comment about. This is probably the biggest debut fight that I can think of between 2 amateurs. Caden Cassidy, he was the Pennsylvania State champion wrestler last year at 138, I think, in Pennsylvania. He was undefeated. He actually was – there was a point where he tech falled like everyone, almost all of his opponents, which a tech fall in wrestling is being up by 15 points, and then they just stop it once you're up by 15 points. So he tech falled he just destroyed everyone. And he's fighting Kyle Vanderlaan, who is also – he's also a scholarship college wrestler. Both these guys are able to fight because college, their wrestling seasons are kind of in flux right now. So Caden Cassidy and Kyle Vanderlaan, and it's Laan, so I've been saying Vanderlaan, if I'm pronouncing it correctly or not, but they're 2 young guys. Now, Caden is both these guys are amazing wrestlers. I know Caden, his passion's MMA. That's what he really loves. Excuse me. So it's exciting to know he's been looking forward to this. He's been watching UFC for years and wants to get involved. So that's the Brawl in the Berg 4 card. Some of the highlights. A lot of good fights. Mm-hmm. It's honestly, I know there's people that I'm a big MMA fan and they don't know anything outside of UFC. Come check out the local scene. It's awesome. The other thing is Brawl in the Berg. Well, we had Brawl in the Berg 5. Do you want me to go over?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
So we have in the main event another local versus local match. It's a Morgantown versus Altoona. We got the battle of the Ethans. I keep joking, the loser has, the winner picks the loser's new name. Only one Ethan can come out of this fight. So Ethan Hayes out of All-American MMA Academy in can't I think of the Uniontown, versus Ethan Goss out of Gorilla House Gym. Huge pro main event. 2 great guys, 2 guys with great skill sets. Ethan recently competed for the featherweight title, came up short against John De Jesus, who is now fighting. He's actually fighting, as of this recording, he just weighed in this morning, and he's fighting tomorrow, Thursday, the 12th, for Bellator against Aaron Pico, who's a big wrestling name.
Yeah.
The co-main event is huge. Another very high level with Chase Boyd versus, and this is another kid. I see his name a lot, but I've never heard it pronounced, so you'll have to forgive me. Brogan Andras. 5-1 versus 4-1. These are two guys that a lot of times you have fighters that they want to fight that, looks good for them. These guys are always asking for fights that are the toughest fights we could find. And these both got a tough fight. And this is a huge co-main event. Stoked about that. We got Sydney Ross, who is a MMA T, one of the originals.
Yeah, she was one of our first athletes.
Absolutely. She's fighting Kelsey Gilmore. These two girls, I mean, this fight is insane. Both of these girls are the scrappiest, and I expect this fight to steal the show. They're two of the toughest, scrappiest. These are going to be two girls. Both of them, there's another two. Both of these girls have like around 500 records. Take a look at who these girls have fought. They fight the toughest fights. Kelsey Gilmore has fought for elite amateur, fighting elite amateur. I can't think of the EAFL fighting league. But they're just very high level, and they fight the tough fights. They've fought girls that are doing very well at the pro level, and we're very competitive with them, even in their wins or losses. So yeah, we're really looking forward to that. We have two undefeated young studs at the featherweight division, and Dylan Harnish and Alan Liu. These two are going to put on a show. Trust me when I say that. That fight is scheduled to fall right after intermission on Saturday. So make sure if you get up or go anywhere for intermission, you come to the show. You get back to your seat as quickly as possible. Dylan Harnish is also one of your sponsored fighters as well. I'd love to talk about every fight, but I don't want to go on forever. A fight I wanted to talk about: Cody Gamble and Raiden Keller. This fight, these are two of the biggest men you're ever going to see. I was looking at a picture of Cody Gamble. Cody Gamble does a lot of training at different spots here in Pittsburgh, and he was training with Cody Garbrandt. And there's pictures of him. If you look on Cody Gamble's Instagram, there's pictures of him standing next to Cody Garbrandt, and it's just ridiculous. This dude's a mountain of a man. He's doing all the right things as far as training goes. He's with Isaac Greeley at the Mat Factory, and he's getting tons of boxing and tons of wrestling, and the guy is phenomenal. And he's fighting Raiden Keller. Raiden is 2-0, 2 quick finishes. Cody's 1-0 with a quick finish. These guys are on a collision course. This is going to be two monsters going at it, and we haven't had a heavyweight fight in 247 yet. This is only our 4th and 5th show, but these two are gonna. There's an earlier heavyweight fight before that, and these two are going to be the second heavyweight fight. This is going to be like nothing you've ever seen. These are two mountain of men that are really, really good that are going to be going out. As a matter of fact, Raiden Keller is so big that we had to order special gloves so that they could fit his hand. I had to special order these custom gloves from out of the country to make sure I had gloves big enough for this kid. So
that's like the Shane Carwin effect.
Yes, that's the kind of these guys are that size. This Raiden, this Gamble is, he's huge. He's 6'2", 250. He's just like, oh man. I told his coach, first time I saw like a good picture of him, I sent a message to his coach. I was like, that's the scariest looking dude I've ever seen. So, but there's lots of good fights. I mean, we got Eli Hawkins and Adam Oatman. That's another local versus local representing the academy. Our good friend Kama Worthy's gym in Pittsburgh here versus Eli Ground Zero Morgantown. I could go on and on. I just went off. Sorry.
No, you're good. It's fun to also see your passion for each one of these fights, and you know your fighters, and you know where they're coming from. And I, as someone who has bounced around from a couple different promotions, when I fight for Art of War out here towards Philly and Lancaster, that's something that I look for. Also, is somebody who knows the fighters, they know the gyms, they know the coaches, and they're also trying to promote, like you said, the gyms to get more people to go into there to also then help them build more students and then help build better fighters. And that kind of comes through as you're, going through these different fights, and I can, see that you're excited for each one coming up. Now, in terms of these two cards, want to know how people can either get tickets, how can they watch, how can they, see some of these, exciting regional fights that you are putting on?
These, the tickets are all on sale at 247fighting.com. So you can go right on the homepage. You scroll down a little bit, and the tickets are available right there. There's for both shows, and also I haven't even announced this yet. It kind of just got activated. We also have a new app. It's 247 Fighting Championships. It's on iPhone and Android, and you can download our app. You can buy the tickets right on there. You can see the fight cards, I believe, are on there as well. We're working on getting everything on there, but that's brand new, just coming out. So download 247 Fighting app. It's going to be a great show. If you live in the Pittsburgh area, if you live anywhere within an hour of here, you want something to do Thanksgiving week. You don't have to work Thanksgiving. It's the biggest party night of the year. Let's get your tickets now. So this card is going to sell out. Typically, we sell out the day, like as the event, people can come up and buy tickets, and we sell out then. Mm-hmm. The way ticket sales are going, it's not going to last till then. It could be the day before. It could be the week of. It's really hard to tell. But this show will sell out. So get your tickets as early as possible. It's going to be a great show. I guarantee you will have a blast.
Awesome, Ryan.
247fighting.com.
Appreciate your time today. Ryan Middleton, owner of 247 Fighting Championships. You got fights coming up Wednesday, November 25th, Saturday, November 28th. Appreciate all you're doing out there for MMA in Pittsburgh, and good luck in your two upcoming shows.
Thanks, brother. Thanks for having me.
Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.